Good morning, everyone. I was just looking at my previous videos, and I think it's so funny how last, um, one of my last love messages that I posted here is "Don't give up." And now this message is titled "I Quit," and both are relevant, and both are part of the same theme. Um, Don't give up pertaining to not giving up on yourself. I quit pertaining to knowing when it is time to surrender, knowing when it is time to remove yourself from situations for your growth and for your betterment. My hope in this video is that I can explain to you what my process has been with in quitting, and that you can apply that to wherever you see that it fits in your life. This is not a one size fits all circumstance. So, my point in my teachings is for you to connect with your intuitive guidance and your intuitive knowing, and to remove the fear so that you can get to the core of your knowing and then make decisions based on that. So, hopefully, everyone can hear me. I'm actually going to do a quick test to make sure that my mic is working. One second. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Great. Okay. All right. When you're joining, just feel free to give a shout, say hi, and ask questions at any time. So, I want to speak about my personal experience recently when it comes to quitting. But this also pertains to relationships, um, anything that you're doing that's not serving you anymore. So let's first talk about the definition of quitting. It means to leave, usually permanently. In Latin, it means be still. And it comes from Middle English um, saying of set free. The adjective is releasing from obligation. I asked Kali Ma what she has to say about quitting. She said, takes bravery, power, and might. It is the joining of your desires, future potential, and knowingness of thyself. When you think about quitting, do you have a negative connotation? Do you feel like you're giving up? Because when I quit, I felt like a huge release. And I'll get more into what exactly I quit. Because I quit a few things. I have a list. I quit deprioritizing my needs, undervaluing who I am at the core, at my natural essence. I quit being lifeless. I quit being delusional about things. I quit ignoring myself. Um, so to go into specifics, to help you ground this into reality. I was working a full time job, and very gradually it stopped serving me. I stopped resonating with it. And I kept getting the pull to take a break. I kept getting the pull that this there isn't anything left for me, that I've learned my lessons, that this is complete. However, quitting your job, that's scary. Like, who does that? Like, who does that without having things lined up? Usually people quit and they have something immediately lined up right after. I've been working pretty much back to back for years, at least more than a decade, and I was just exhausted. Um, and then the combination of like spiritual awakenings, which is also exhausting, and realizing more of your mission and your purpose too. So, and I'm not telling people to quit their jobs. I'm telling you to align more with your mission and your purpose and your intuition, which I had been pushing off for a while because I was afraid. I was scared. Um, but really, now that I have quit, I quit my job, I feel like a weight has lifted and I've received so much clarity since then. I would like you all to be aware that it is very difficult to receive more, receive more of your blessings, understand more of your gifts, purposes. It is very difficult to receive the new and understand the new you if you're still holding on to the old you. If you're still holding on to the old ways of doing things that no longer align with your belief system, it's like you're being split apart. And I understand that it's sometimes difficult to make a change, and sometimes you fear just you fear like the what ifs come up, your ego gets in the way. um, Maybe you have some conditioning and programming that tells you that releasing things isn't good, but how can you move on to something better, something more aligned with you, your truth, and your purpose if you don't release the old, if you don't release what's no longer serving you? Um, and this goes with not only jobs, but with relationships too. I've had to let go of relationships. Um, so, for those of you just joining me, I'm just talking about I quit. So, give me a shout in the chat, say hi, and feel free to ask questions. If you don't know me, my name is Alana, and I'm an intuitive and spirit channeler, and you can find more about me at alanaheavenly.com. And I also offer private one-on-one sessions. Okay, remembering oneness. So let's go into when it's time to quit. So before I quit my job, I decided to take an extended vacation, an extended sabbatical, because I needed to um, take a step back. I needed to pause a little bit. I needed to surrender. I did not know what I wanted to do about my job. I knew that I wanted to take a break. And I knew that I would not be able to figure anything out without taking a break. So I went on vacation. I didn't really travel anywhere. I stayed home, which was really the best for me. I knew in my heart intuitively that I wanted to stay home. I wanted to decompress. Um, and just surrendering, taking a step back really gives you the opportunity to see your behaviors, to see how you improve or how you don't improve based on removing yourself from a situation. So I found that when I took a sabbatical, when I took this extended vacation from my job, my patterns, my behaviors improved drastically. I felt much more open. I felt more creative. I felt like I was getting life back into me. And keep in mind that this really has nothing to do with the actual job. Like I'm using this because it helps to have a specific example, and this is what has happened to me recently. But I'm in no way saying I'm not saying anything negative about this job. This is about my process and what has happened to me, and to give you guys something to consider when it's time for you guys to step away and to let go of something, whether it's a job or a relationship, etc. So, what was I saying? Um, when I decided to pause and to take a sabbatical, I thought about what it is that I wanted to, what was the point of this sabbatical? What was the purpose? What feelings did I want to bring in? And so I decided that I wanted to feel bliss and joy because for years and years, like I felt like I was just doing the same thing in life. And I wasn't connecting that much with happiness. And I certainly did not know what joy felt like anymore, not in my day to day life. So, um, and again, as you know, when it comes to, oop, I think I'm paused. Oh, I'm back. Again, as you know, when it comes to spiritual awakenings, there's so many ups and downs that come up. And it's really important for you to do your daily practices and making sure, like by meditating and making sure that you're taking care of your body, mind, and soul. And I was completely like neglecting my body, and therefore I was neglecting all parts of myself. I was neglecting um, neglecting my needs. So I was going further away from that bliss state, that joy state, because I was disconnecting from myself because I was afraid of what it looked like to let go of something that I had been doing for a long time. Um, so when is it time to quit and to remove yourself from a situation? When you are staying due to fear instead of expansion. So, one thing I had asked myself, and what I continue to ask myself in situations, is if I if I remove myself from this scenario, then what does that bring me? What do I feel? Do I feel open? Do I feel like like I'm containing myself? Do I feel like I'm keeping myself in a box? Does it feel like I'm sticking around because of fears, because I fear the unknown? Or does it look like wonderful, like a wonderful, expansive playground? Because one thing I had decided is that I'm here to enjoy life, and my my day to day life is important. And how I choose to spend my time, 40 hours a week, is important. And that's not something that I really was raised to see. I was raised that a job is a job, and that, you can have your fun outside of work. And while I understand that not everything is meant to be all lovely rainbows and butterflies, there is also like an extreme, like when you're just very unhappy and you need to decide what to do based on that. 1 second. Um, another time, another point when to consider quitting is when you're just staying because of obligation and for really nothing else. When you're staying because you feel like others need you. And that's just codependency. So that's not really helping anyone with their growth and expansion, especially not you. When you're staying in the situation to play it small and safe, um, I don't advise leaving a situation. Obviously, if you're taking care of anyone that like really needs it, truly needs it, because they're unable to take care of themselves. So let's use that disclaimer, please. Um, but if you really want to learn and grow, if you feel like there's more for you, and you just know that there's more that you're being called to do, more you're being called to be still or step away, listen to that, because the more you ignore it, the louder and louder it gets. And it's reminding me of something I wrote about in my newsletter. Um, so the day that I found out about Toni Morrison's death, I was riding in a cab on my way to work, and I was looking at Twitter and I read that she had passed, and all of a sudden, like, it just hit me. It was like a ton of bricks, and I was like, who do we have left? What ancestors do we have left? And I just didn't know what to do at that time. It had been a year where, like, many of my ancestors had passed, um, and I just felt like, what am I doing with myself? Am I actually going big here? Am I continuing to play it small? I had been making baby steps to do things, but I really wasn't taking major leaps because I was just fearful. And I got the message that I heard my spirit guide say, you are what we have, what you have left. Meaning that all of us, we are all here to create. We are all here to go bigger. Like Pamela Erlin says, go big or go home. We're all here to expand. We are our ancestors. And then I said, okay, well, I need help. Please help me, like, figuring out my next steps. What do I need to do to go bigger? What do I need to do for my expansion? And then literally like 2 hours later, there was this big conflict at work that like definitely was one of the catalysts and one of the decisions behind um, making a long-term departure, deciding to just surrender and take a step back. So, ask and you shall receive. It was scary at the time, but I knew immediately, like, I asked for this, I asked for help, I asked for assistance in moving forward, and I received it. And I was actually grateful at the time because I absolutely needed it. So just remember that when you're asking for guidance from your spirit guides and ancestors, that they will give it to you. And that when it comes, realize that it is for the best, even if it's scary at that time. Um, so another thing that held me back from quitting and taking a step back is fear of the unknown. Um, at the time, I had no clue what I was going to be doing. I didn't have a good sense of what I wanted to do with my healing practice. I still had a lot of fear when it came to sharing things and being and truly like deciding what the goal was or the purpose was with my healing practice. And then I also just needed to rest as well. And I gave myself time to just not think about it. And instead I just connected with my inner child and I did activities that I loved to do as a child. And I just followed my intuitive nudges by um, signing up for a jewelry making class, for example. I started doing that. And it was so random for me. A colleague had recommended the class. And so I started taking classes maybe 6 months ago, maybe longer than that. And then during my sabbatical, I felt these moments of bliss and joy. I just felt like, wow, this is what it's like to be creative. Like I am creating these beautiful things with my hands and I'm fully like just in the zone for 6 hours, just with my blowtorch and thinking about how I want to design things. And I truly connected with what it means to be blissful. And and I'm telling you this because it's important to set intentions on why you're doing things and what it is that you'd like to feel. Um, and so that you can look back and read, and hopefully you're documenting this in a journal, so you can look back and read and see what it is that you've learned. Um, that was really pivotal for me. So when deciding to quit, consider what feelings you'd like to call in. So for me, I called in bliss and joy in terms of my purposes. And once I connected with those feelings of bliss and joy when it came to making jewelry, I called that into my healing practice. I realized that some things that I was doing in my healing practice, some videos that I was making, I wasn't really connecting with it. It wasn't really me authentically. So I started shifting things a bit and doing things that I felt was more aligned with me. So that's why I came up with Alana Talk to talk about like the more grounding day-to-day occurrences that comes up as being a young person in their 30s, going through spiritual awakenings, living life as the black sheep, the family, with the purpose of oneness and seeing the God in everyone and yourself. So, sorry, my dog is kind of distracting me. She's just trying to play with me. um, so let's see if there's anything else that came up. There's something. I was up super late at night and I wanted to make a video about this immediately at like 3 in the morning. But obviously, like, I didn't think anyone would be live on YouTube at the time. So I waited until 9 a.m. And there's also some audio that I channeled related to this. And I'll have to transcribe that and post it below when I get the chance in the afternoon. But what things do you guys think that you have to let go of? What do you think that you have to quit in order to be more aligned with yourself? What are some things that you're still holding on to that's part of the old you? Because the old you doesn't exist anymore. So, what plans can you make for yourself to remove yourself from that old you and to be realigned with the new you? And you don't have to necessarily comment now, but you can always email me at contact@alanaheavenly.com, or you can comment in this YouTube video and let me know what it is that you're afraid of releasing. And we could talk about it. We can bring in the ascended masters and high beings, and they can whip us all into shape like they whipped me into shape. And this is part of my series about being a little bit more selfish and prioritizing yourself. And that involves quitting and surrendering to things and realizing that some things are not for you anymore. It doesn't mean that particular thing is bad. It just means that it's not for you and it's no longer aligned with you. So that's everything. If there are no questions, then I'm going to head out for the day. But thank you for listening and let me know if you have any questions. Again, I'm available for one-on-one private sessions at alanaheavenly.com. I have a special birthday reading that I'm doing. It's a 30-minute reduced rate reading related to finding your purpose and bliss and joy, and that's via the Akashic Records. So you can check that out on my website. Again, it's alanaheavenly.com. And thank you again to everyone that has emailed me and sent comments saying that they appreciate my authenticity and like the content I've been putting out. I really love you guys for doing that. Thank you so much.